Good morning and welcome to the Camnet Breakfast Show, Wednesday edition, governance and policy as well as politics with me, Patrick Soko, and Shalon Kadimbula. Good morning.
Good morning, Patrick. You're looking very bluey.
And so whitey, and so whitey.
You know that I couldn't blue.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where you get inspiration from. Good morning to you, our viewers. Welcome to Eat. Indeed, it's a Wednesday. When you see these two faces, you know that it's about to go down in terms of politics, policy, and everything that happens in relation to governance. You have a very interesting topic, and hopefully our guest makes it through to the studio. Patrick will be zooming into the stories that make headlines as of yesterday to set the tone for today, and we'll also look at the money markets. The kwacha has been ballooning of late, and somebody is getting jittery over this situation. Well, we're yet to understand why this is happening. Obviously, on Friday we'll get more details on this.
Exactly.
And we'll also look at the health corner as well as the what do you call him?
The fitness puppy. Yeah.
The fitness puppy.
Yeah, and talking about fitness, we'll go straight into the morning boost. Hello. It's your boy Harrison, aka the Fitness Puppy, and I'm saying happy festival season to you. And we are here again at John's Fitness Gym in Kablonga in conjunction with the Camnet TV. And guys, today I am going to take you in two variations of deadlift. Apparently we have three variations of deadlift. So now here you can just perform two types of deadlift. Okay, so first I'm going to start with this usual one, the conventional one, like the most popular. So this one, I'm sure in my previous video you saw it. Chin part of your body, the chin body has to be close to the bar. Then your hand has to be outside the legs. Then you hold it nicely. Then pull it up. And then, as usual, the ending part is the core as well as the glutes. So this is the conventional type of deadlifts. Okay. So this was the conventional type of deadlift. So I'm going to show you another one. So this one is called the sumo deadlift. So the sumo deadlift, stand wide. Then instead of your arms to be outside the legs, now they are inside the legs. And the conventional one, you are going to pull down the bar using your back. So now this one, you are using your legs. So it's more like a squat. So you bend all the way. Then so remember, when you go up, the chest has to be out. Oh, that's all for today. You've been with me, Harrison, aka the Fitness Puppy. Remember, it's about your health, and we are here at John's Fitness Gym in Kablonga. Say bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. Thank you for that exercise, the fitness puppy, helping us to do it right. As we always say, you need to always keep fit, and the better way to do that is making sure that you exercise on a daily basis to keep fit in order to kick away diseases, especially non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, heart diseases, and other ailments. So we need to make sure that we do that exercise, especially early in the morning. It is important that we keep fit, especially in the wake of the reemergence of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as that has that has been affecting the country of later. We need to make sure that we avoid it so that it does not worsen, by making sure that we adopt a health lifestyle. And talking about a health lifestyle, that brings us to the next segment we call the Health Corner with the doctor, to help us understand various issues. And today, let's just hear what the doctor has prepared for us in terms of the Health Corner. Keep it on Camnet.
Hi, good morning and welcome to the Health Corner on the Breakfast Show here on Camnet TV. I am Dr. KAFWAYA. This week we have been talking about hypertensive heart disease, and we discovered what hypertensive heart disease is, that it's elevated blood pressure that happens over a long period of time, that causes damage to the heart. So what are some of the signs and symptoms of hypertensive heart disease? People with hypertensive heart disease can present with certain symptoms that can show that you have a problem with the heart, or you have something going on in your heart. And these symptoms include things like chest pain. Usually the chest pain feels like there's something sitting in the chest, or there's something squeezing in your chest, or you feel like a heaviness in the chest. Sometimes the chest pain can radiate or move from the chest itself. You start feeling the pain on the back or in the arm. So they might also have back pain. They might also have a pain in the hands or in the arm. They may also experience symptoms like palpitations. Palpitations is when the heart is beating too fast, or when the heart is not beating normally the way it's supposed to. So you might end up feeling like the heart is not pumping the way that it usually does, or you're just not feeling like the heart is beating well. So you might also have other symptoms like a swelling in the legs. And this usually happens after a long period of time, when the hypertensive heart disease has been there for some time, leading to heart failure. And this happens because the heart is not pumping blood well, and so there is a retention of salt and water, and so the water starts moving into the tissues, and it causes swelling in the hands, in the legs, on the face sometimes. So these are some of the symptoms of people who have hypertensive heart disease, and you need to look out for some of these things so that you can know when to seek attention. Usually it's people who already have hypertension who would start experiencing these symptoms. So if you know that you have hypertension and you start having some of these symptoms, then make sure you go to the hospital as soon as possible. Also, sometimes you might already be hypertensive and you are taking your medication quite all right, but you might have episodes where your blood pressure increases drastically, and it can also lead to things like having a chest pain that you don't usually experience. And in such situations, you need to go to the hospital very quickly, because you might be having a heart attack. So be sure that you know what are some of the symptoms of hypertensive heart disease, so that you know when to seek medical attention promptly. So today we are learning that hypertensive heart disease patients can have symptoms, and these symptoms include pain in the chest, which can radiate to the hands, to the back as well. So they might also have back pain, they might have palpitations in the heart where the heart is not beating very well, and also they might have swelling in the body because there is a lot of fluid that is being retained in the body, leading to swelling in the feet most of the time. So these are just some of the symptoms of hypertensive heart disease that you need to look out for and watch for in yourself or in people around you, your family members, so that you know when to seek medical attention. I hope you have learned something today, and be sure to watch tomorrow's episode where we'll be talking about the treatment and the management of patients who have hypertensive heart disease. Thank you so much for watching.
Welcome back. You are still watching the Camnet Breakfast Show, and we were looking at the health corner with Dr. Mufaya. Interesting topic of discussion there. Hope you managed to get one or two things there, especially in as far as our health is concerned. And Shalom, just how are you keeping fit, especially with this weather? You know that it has been raining cats and monks. Is it? Oh, dogs. Is it dogs?
With the threats of cholera, COVID-19, you know, all these big things that are threatening the health of the people. We surely hope that we will be able to work around that. But for me, really, Patrick, you know that I'm a fit monk, if at all there's such a thing. I'm naturally fit. I don't need to.
Who is not naturally fit here?
Here.
Who is not naturally fit here?
Elijah, B. Mark. Yeah. Okay.
We'll leave it there for now.
These guys need to do a lot.
Leave it there for now.
They've been through a lot with their bodies.
What are some of the stories we are zooming in?
Let's look at some of the stories that we ran yesterday. Energy expert Johnston Chikwanda has maintained that there is need to increase electricity tariffs to the tune of 17% per year in a period of 5 years in order to migrate to cost-reflected tariffs and increase investment in the sector. He says Zambians must bear with government if it increases the... What word is this? Anyways, let's look at this story.
The energy sector has been at the center of attention with the ongoing load shedding and the high price of fuel prompting stakeholders to push for solutions in both the electricity and petroleum sub-sectors. Energy expert Johnston Chikwanda, during a press conference in Lusaka Tuesday, brought out suggestions on how Zambia can get out of the energy crisis. Prominent among them is the need to migrate to cost-effective tariffs, further stating that Zambians must bear with the government if it takes such a decision.
The tariffs quite significantly within the next 1 year to actualize investment, failure to which it is predicted that load shedding will worsen and may reverse the gains which have been made in the economy. In addition, accelerating economic development will not be achieved, and Zambia will make poor progress in the 8 SDGs, which depend directly on energy and include decent jobs and poverty.
And Dr. Chikwanda has described President Hakainde Hichilema's recent trips to Angola and Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates respectively, as progressive because Zambians will have access to cheap fuel through a pipeline from Angola, as well as the 2,000 megawatts solar electricity project that will help stabilize Zambia's energy sector. And Dr. Chikwanda has also appealed to the government to revisit the lengthy and cumbersome approval journey for the energy sector projects.
I wish to appeal to our traditional leaders, their Royal Highnesses, to support these robust energy projects by making it easy to acquire customary land, as a pipeline from Angola will pass through different chiefdoms, both in Angola and Zambia. The 2,000 megawatt solar project will not be built in one location, but will be unbundled and built in different chiefdoms. I plead with them to make it easy to issue letters of consent. These are multi-billion-dollar projects which will be in their chiefdoms. I also want to appeal to government to revisit the lengthy and cumbersome approval journey for energy sector projects. The journey starts with local government, land acquisitions, approvals for drawings. Then you head to the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment through the Zambia Environmental Management Agency, ZEMA, and ends with Ministry of Energy through the Energy Regulation Board. If you are fortunate, it will take you 1 year to conclude these approval processes before you could start your procurement of materials, most of which have to be imported, and then you go into construction.
He also highlighted that in the wake of load shedding, the Energy Regulation Board, ERB, must take more interest in the price of solar panels and batteries. He notes with concern that despite government waiving taxes year in, year out, the price of solar panels and batteries has remained high in the country. Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
All right, there you have it, Dr. Chikwanda there, an energy expert, renowned expert in Zambia and internationally acclaimed. And he always gives government checks and balances in terms of what is happening in the energy sector, be it fuel, be it electricity, among many other alternatives that the Zambian people are being encouraged to go to as a result of increased fuel prices. He also talked about the issue of monthly adjustment. Patrick, maybe you didn't add it to your story, but I know it was a lengthy statement.
Yeah, it was. But in fact, it touched about almost every other thing. Every other thing
in the energy sector.
Yes.
And he was providing solutions. That's a good part about the statement that was issued. He wasn't just condemning, as other people would, to say, okay, this is the wrong way. This, he would say, we can do better if we go this route, this route.
So, but if you ask for my opinion, my unsolicited opinion is that increasing the energy tariffs quite okay is okay, but also have to look at the income. You conducted the cost of electricity study. Now, have we also done the same in terms of understanding the people's ability to pay for electricity?
Yeah,
we haven't done that.
At the same time, we have a lot of people that cannot access it.
Yes, even at the current price, Sharon, we understand that most of the people do not afford. It is difficult to manage to just pay the current electricity tariffs. Now, what more if you increase them? So now, it becomes a situation whereby the larger population does not afford to pay for this electricity, and it starts becoming a preserve of the rich. That's why I suspect successive government had to always subsidize this. If anything, if government cannot subsidize meal, if government cannot subsidize electricity, then what is the government there for? You understand? Then we are better off doing things on our own and handling things on our own.
It can't subsidize
because the government has to look at.
It can't subsidize, but it's taxing its people, and others are getting a 10.5 increment.
Exactly. You see, so that's another.
And then you have a majority of the people that are not even in that bracket of being civil servants. The majority are just informal workers. You know, they're running businesses here and there, and they're expected to pay their taxes. You see, to government, but then they cannot even afford, of course, to buy these Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so the same thing, electricity, Madam Karimbo.
No. I was almost sneezing.
I know that.
It reminds me of Precious on set the other time.
Listen. So as long as we're not going to be looking at the both sides of a coin, we'll be making wrong decisions. At the end of the day, if you look at the cost of living, most of the families are below the threshold, which is going towards 9,000 per month for a family of 5 for Lusaka. Now, even the civil servants themselves, their salary cannot contribute, most of them cannot contribute to the cost of living as measured by the Jesuit Center for Theological Reflections. But if you continue to increase the price of electricity, what does that mean? Everything else becomes expensive. Yes, so for example, for me, my thinking is that there are sectors where we should have an interest, where we can prioritize investments collectively as a country that aid us, because electricity, it can aid your salon, Sharon. It can aid my barber shop, and I should be able to thrive in one or two things. But if it is going to be that expensive that I'm not able to manage, even if I manage, but the people, because I'll put my prices high and I don't have customers, to whose interest is that business serving? Exactly. I think the other week, one of our guys did a story for restaurant owners in is it Libala Market somewhere? Yes. It was about Millimil, but I'm trying to just likening it to the issue of power, where customers cannot buy the food because it's been increased due to the increase in Millimil prices. Exactly. You know, a plate that was being sold probably at 20 kwacha is now being sold at 25 or maybe 23, 24. Yes. That difference for a number of people is quite too much. The truth of the matter is that people in these areas will actually decide to buy one plate of food. You put a 10 kwacha, you put a 10, we buy a plate of food at 20, we eat, and the day goes by like that. But then when you say 25, or that means you've entered into my usual budget or maybe saving or any, so instead I would decide to starve. Equally, the same thing happened that time when there was an increase in fuel pump prices. We saw a number of people walking to town from different areas. For example, even Chipata compound coming into town. And you did a story for that man who said, my profit, my capital for a day is 30 kwacha. So if I get on a bus, which is 15 kwacha or 17 kwacha, it actually goes beyond my capital. How do I sustain myself? How do I go home and put food on the table? So it has all this ripple effect on a lot of activities, a lot of sectors, and we need to really take bold steps, of course, but at the same time considering how it's going to affect people. Because it may just be a preserve for a few individuals. Yeah, because at the moment, if you look at rural electrification, it is at 8%. It tells you that we still have a long way to go, and people cannot afford. And most of the rural electrification projects, most of them are equally off-grid. Even those off-grid projects, they are still not sufficient at the moment to accommodate for the rural population. Now, how are we going to manage to steer rural electrification when the price, even in urban areas, is becoming difficult? What will happen is that even the access to electricity will become difficult. Already it's going to become difficult. I don't know if it was deliberately put so that people are limited from terms of connecting to the grid, because the cost of connections or meter separations has been increased, and most people cannot afford that. That's for a fact. If you're looking at 3,000, 4,000, most of the people cannot afford that, to pay that much. Already it is expensive to just connect. What about now sustaining the purchase of electricity? So those are the problems that emerge. For me, I've also gotten to understand while working on stories that the best the country can do is if you safeguard the most vulnerable population, then you are well off. It is the same thing. They say a country is also judged on how it treats its prisoners, because that's the most vulnerable area there. Today, so if you talk about prisoners today, they'll tell you about blankets, about mattresses. But I'm giving you an example to say, but that's how they measure the country. So you have to make sure that you safeguard the most vulnerable. We're talking about that marketeer. Yeah. We're talking about, so when you have to say, is this marketeer going to manage to connect to electricity? Is this marketeer going to manage to grow their business? So that's what we are going to be looking at. No, the energy sector, Sharon, has a lot of issues, and we'll continue to discuss these issues so that we can continue to bring the debate. You too, our dear viewers, can give us your perspective on this subject on electricity, talking about increasing electricity tariffs. Do you subscribe to such a notion? In case you want to give us your perspective, you can come through and give us that call, or leave us a comment on our Facebook page so that we can get the conversation going. Indeed, you too can have the conversation going by calling us, like Patrick has mentioned. Our topic of discussion this morning is the UPND living up to its standards. Issues to do with presidential trips, international trips, have always been a topic of discussion in every administration, Patrick. During the PF, it was the order of the
the day, usually from the main opposition, then now in government, they would always say, no, these trips are not yielding results. But then we've seen a number of trips happening for the president, and he's actually not even in the country at the moment. We want to hear your perspective on these international trips. Yesterday, like we said, the conversation we had with Dr. Chikwanda, the president,
also mentioned,
was quite lengthy. He mentioned part of it to say a number of trips that the president has undertaken has yielded positive results, citing the recent Abu Dhabi issue in the energy sector, of course, among other sectors have been tackled through these trips that the president has undertaken.
Yes.
A lot of MOUs have been signed from different countries here and there, and we surely hope that they will see, is it the day of light, the light of day?
Exactly. Yeah.
I got it right this time, not so.
You did.
Yeah, so we surely hope. So you can have a conversation with us by calling us through in the studio. Let's talk about these things. Developmental issues are concerted, and they affect both you and I. Let's look at some of the stories that made headlines also in the courtroom, where a 39-year-old businessman has told the Lusaka Magistrate Court that her 27-year-old former neighbor allegedly sodomized her autistic son in March 2022. Testifying before Magistrate Sheila Mwene, the unnamed mother said she learned of the brutal act after the 11-year-old victim himself informed her. This is in a case in which Peter Jerry is alleged to have enticed the victim to his house under the pretext of buying him some snacks. Jerry is charged with one count of unnatural offense contrary to Section 155C of the Penal Code, Chapter 87 of the laws of Zambia.
In a half-packed court Tuesday, a 39-year-old businesswoman took the witness dock before the Lusaka magistrate and gave chilling testimony of how her 11-year-old autistic son was allegedly sodomized by a 27-year-old man, Peter Jerry. Testifying before Magistrate Sheila Mwene, this morning the unnamed mother, whose identity cannot be disclosed for purposes of the victim's safety, told the magistrate of how she was shocked, upset and confused that the accused, who had been a neighbor for the past 5 years, would resort into doing such a ruthless act. The witness narrated that on the material day, she was aware and her firstborn son made numerous calls to her, asking on what time she was going to be back home. She said after receiving so much calls from her firstborn son, she got concerned and rushed home, thinking that something bad might have happened to the victim. According to court records, the abuse is alleged to have occurred between the 3rd and the 4th of March 2022. Peter Jerry, the accused, is alleged to have enticed the 11-year-old victim to his house under the pretext of buying him snacks. The state have slapped him with one count of unnatural offense contrary to Section 155C of the Penal Code, Chapter 87 of the laws of Zambia. In a further testimony, the sorrowful woman narrated that upon reaching home, her little bundle of joy informed her that he had allegedly been sodomized by the accused, Jerry. The distressed mother also told the court that her 11-year-old son informed her that the first incident occurred at the accused mother's house, while the second incident is said to have occurred in an unfinished church building. Meanwhile, the media was requested to leave the courtroom the moment the victim was called to testify, as the new Children Court Bill does not allow. The matter comes up on the 21st of February 2023 for continuation of trial. Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News. For close to 4 years now, former Zambia Air Force Commander Lieutenant General Eric Chimese and his co-accused Cheetah Lodge Director James Chungu have been appearing before the Lusaka Magistrate Court to answer to abuse of authority of office and money laundering charges relating to property in Ibex Hill and Lilai area in Lusaka. Tuesday morning, the two once again made their appearance before the subordinate court. The matter was scheduled for a ruling on case or no case to answer, however, could not take off as the trial court was indisposed. In 2019, the former Zambia Air Force commander was arrested by the Drug Enforcement Commission in Lusaka, together with his co-accused. The state accuses him of abuse of authority of office and is jointly charged with Mr. Chungu for money laundering relating to 9 apartments in the said areas earlier mentioned. In 2021, the court held in-camera testimonies from witnesses after a ruling made the testimony from Bernard Chileshe relating to the emolument of the former Zambia Air Force commander be heard in camera. In-camera proceeding is a proceeding carried out in private in the absence of the public and the press for the purpose of sensitivity. This ruling of having this testimony in camera came after the accused lawyer Kelvin Fubewalia objected to Colonel Bernard Chileshe from disclosing the amount of money that the accused accrued from the time he assumed office as ZAF commander until the time he was fired. The witness had testified that Chimese's emolument were approximately 11.7 million, but before he could disclose further information relating to what the accused accrued from the pension benefits, salaries and travel allowances between 2011 and 2012, the defense curtailed his testimony, arguing that the evidence bordered on the state security. The matter comes up on the 1st of February 2023. Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News.
All right, that is news from the courtroom. Miriam Kaimba there always brings us up to speed with what's happening, and obviously she's already there tracking some of the stories that you are interested in. Patrick?
Interesting stories there. Yeah, coming from the courts, and such a sad story there on the sodomizing of that child. People can be cruel. We just hope that justice will be served on that matter as it continues, and we'll continue to follow it up with our court reporter, Miriam Kaimba.
Indeed, it's cruel, Patrick. Yeah. It's cruel. How do you sodomize? In fact, sodomy itself is just not a good thing. Huh?
No.
It's not.
It's a
and
sin,
then now,
and
to make it worse, you go and sodomize
an autistic
child, because you probably think they won't report you, they won't say anything, you know. The more reason why I always say children, regardless of their disability, I think they need to be empowered on reporting mechanisms of such kind of abuse, because this is not the first time. The other one, we did a story in Garden House with Prudence, that girl, it was a female. She's in that category as well, and then she was abused by some person. When the matter was reported to the police, they couldn't take up the challenge very well, because they thought, no, Sally, no more you and stuff. But the fact that somebody is probably mentally challenged, and they've got some form of disability, doesn't guarantee them not accessing any help in terms of justice. They are required to face justice as a normal person should if they are abused.
Exactly.
You know? So those are things that we need to capacitate persons living with disability, or maybe persons with mental illness, to say it doesn't matter whether you're in this condition. If at all somebody abuses you, you've got the right to go and report them, and those people would they need to face justice. But then we've got this reluctancy when a person in this condition reports such matters. We feel
the reluctance is there,
but it shouldn't be like that. Like this case, really, an 11-year-old being sodomized, it's unfair. It's animosity, I think.
For me, the good part of the entire story is that at least it has reached
the courts. Yes.
Court level. At least justice.
I think the person who received that report was very kind enough to pursue this matter.
And committed.
Because most of these police officers, not to accuse them, but we've heard reports where people say, we reported the matter, but then it's not going anywhere. In the name of, we are investigating.
The suspect is roaming, is on board.
The suspect is just enjoying, you know, things like that. So we hope that we become human enough as a people and stop ourselves from taking up such injustices. Really, it's an injustice that I don't even want to continue talking about, but it's something that always happens in our communities. We've got a lot of these cases that go unreported.
Yes,
yeah,
indeed. And also talking about the stories, the another interesting story, Sharon, is that we understand that the government has pronounced that the free education policy, which started last year, and now quite a number of issues, I imagine. And this interesting story coming from Kanyama constituency, where we have Chinika Secondary School in Lusaka's Kanyama constituency. So hundreds of parents and pupils caused a commotion as they felt unfairly treated by the school administration. Parents have explained to Camnet News that the school was limited. Schools have limited classroom spaces, leaving their children to roam around the streets while others are having lessons. So this is a story of inadequate school spaces. Sharon, if you want to enroll your child, you find that it was already occupied. So I've come to also understand that we have quite a number of systems in terms of education. We have schools that just end at grade 7. Yeah. So they offload their pupils to those schools that can accommodate grade 7, grade 8 pupils. Now, others are community schools that may not be able to accommodate everyone, or also be able to take grade 8. So they have to offload them to other schools that are at secondary level. Others are in the private sector. So you want to, those in the private sector have to also offload some pupils into the government school system. Now, the school spaces,
other schools have got primary through to secondary school, and what they do is they will first pick their children. And when the spaces are now available, that's when they'll accommodate pupils from other schools. And that's where the challenge comes in.
That's where the challenge comes in.
That's where the challenge comes in.
Now, we have this huge problem. So this story in Chinika says it all, because it is the same in most localities which we have gone to. So let's just get to
this problem is what the Minister of Education, Douglas Yakalima, says it's a good problem. He says it's a good problem.
Yeah, but others will still end up
and we will deal with it. It's a good problem.
We hope they will expedite the construction of classrooms.
We surely hope, but then he said, we cannot start building classrooms for pupils that need the space now, because most of the complaints that actually are received from various stakeholders, including Nakez, our colleague, our friend who promotes quality education, he says, of course, it's free education, but the classes are crowded and the teacher-pupil ratio has increased. It has just increased. Already, it was already high. But then the minister said, we cannot start constructing classes now, which will probably be done in the next 3 years. What happens in the next 3 years, meaning we will not enroll. We have a lot of people on the streets who want to access education. So let them come in, let the classes be crowded. For us, that is a good problem, according to him. It means people are responding to the free education policy. So what we need to do as parents is to ensure that we go an extra mile in assisting our children who are in public schools or are in crowded classes.
Send me the explanation. Let's get to zoom in that story.
Patrick, assist your child.
Let's zoom in that story.
Let's zoom into that story. We see what the parents were talking about.
With the free education policy introduced by the United Party for National Development, UPND administration, every parent wants their child in school. Tuesday, commotion arose at Chinika Secondary School in Lusaka's Kanyama constituency when parents showed up in numbers in search of classroom space. Parents and pupils spoken to have lamented that their search for classroom space has been rather unfortunate because of limited spaces in most schools.
The other time when I came here, I was told I should come on 24th as per arranged. Now I came here as 05 hours. Now they are telling me the other story that there are no places. After promising us to say that on 24th things will be right.
Kubuteko butumone kwabana n'abapasa abengi ero n'abapasa abakwata baliza utasoma nomba ngatwaya ku masukulu baleti ama space takuli nomba ko twala abana ni kwisa turayirishanya kubuteko butulolekeshe
our situation tabakontrole batwebele kuti mukwese bonse pa 24th lelo nomba tapati ofe batwebele bayisile bayishilelanda fyati ama places nabo chapo efyo batweba that's why abantu beminine fyefine tapati obatitire kwa ando na imanju ando na mfumo tapati.
They have since appealed to the government to build more schools and create classroom space if the free education policy is to be achieved.
To the president, Republican President, HH, please help us. Akainde HH, please help us. We voted for you so that our problems can be heard to you.
I'm suffering myself because of the same. You said this is a free education. Where is the free education now? Because if it's a free education, let us, our people, be accommodated in this government schools, not private schools.
Vanatoka kuvikwati no vapweza kuskulu vapasa vabwerere kuvikwati oro vaende kuti nanga vata vanatoka kuchivorya vabwerera kuskulu vapasa vabwerere kuchivorya oro vaende kuti soti pempa pane vakati kumanga maskuzi chiri bwino vaike 3 sessions mwana aliyense apeze malo ku government.
Meanwhile, District Education Board Secretary Ian Miyoba has assured the affected parties that the government through the Ministry of Education is working towards ensuring that all pupils are allocated into schools.
But we should also appreciate that each school has a limit of people that they can enroll. However, we are saying people must not be complaining like it is the end of the world. That is why Babes is here to look at the matter. So that we look at the numbers that are swelling at Chinika. So that if we are able to pick them and take them to other schools that have low demand, we can do that.
Beatrice Chabaya, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Could this also be the reason of 100% progression, Patrick? This is the last year. Like last year was the last year of 100% progression. Maybe the only way it's going to be managed is to bring back the cutoff point like they announced. Hopefully this year we'll have pupils who will fail and those that will pass. Those who will fail will have to repeat.
For me, I think also we need to look at the census. What is the census telling us about the population of children? And in terms of birth per capita, in terms of how many births are we recording? We need to estimate after 5 years how many children will require to be in grade 1, how many children will require to be in grade 8, what the numbers of classrooms do we need to accommodate the entire population. Remember, we are no longer 15 million rather, but we are 19 million. To round it off, we are just 20 million. Now, so we need we cannot depend on the same school system or the existing schools. So we need to expand exponentially in order to accommodate all the pupils that make it to grade 8 and also those who make it to grade 10. So if we do not do that, we'll continuously have this problem. No wonder we have this census of population. It is to help us plan and plan for every development. So when we are talking about sustainable development goals, SDG number 4 demands that we should have inclusive access to education and also promote long life learning opportunities for all. Now, talking about promoting long life learning opportunities for all, others may be excluded. You see, you are seeing that. Now, where are they going to access the opportunities for learning? Now, you discover that access to education we will still have that problem we had in the past of talking about access. You remember that the issue of access was addressed. Access it was possible for everyone to get into grade 1, to get into the school system. But now it seems like it will be difficult for everyone to be in the school system, especially those who are unable to take their children to the private schools. So it becomes a problem. So now under SDG number 4, then we are looking at almost all the indicators. Access, quality, it remains a problem. So when we talk about access, if access is going to be a problem, Sharon, then it tells you that with just 7 to 8 years to go before we clock we are not achieving the 2030 for the sustainable development goals, we won't achieve anything when it comes to education. You know, the quality of education matters because at the end of the day, when we talk about overcrowded schools, we are also bringing into perspective another problem. Another problem that comes in is sustainable development goal number 3 on inclusive access to health. So now talking about health, you cannot have a crowded school that is observing good health tenets. In this COVID season. It's not possible. So if like you're saying, if there's COVID and you're having crowded schools, where's the social distancing aspect? It won't be possible. So now, looking at the aspect of sanitation, it is also another problem that schools are usually prone to cholera, because you discover that the more pupils have to be crowded in the few ablution blocks.
And hygiene practices.
So hygiene becomes a problem. So the school, the toilets cannot accommodate the high population of pupils there. No wonder you find that poor sanitation there. Now we continue to subject our children to such classrooms, and the most affected tend to be those grade ones. Now those who are joining, the small ones. Now they could not handle the poor sanitation in these toilets. So now we bring in the issues of cholera. So a lot of sustainable development goals are being violated. So when we're talking about development, we should be sincere as a people and as a country. So when we're looking at these issues, we look at them holistically and see the consequences. So the consequences are quite many in this case.
Indeed, the consequences are quite many. It comes with the free education policy that was introduced by government in 2022, and this is the second year, and we've seen a number of parents waking up and taking their children back to school, those that we are failing, unless it is actually beyond the reach of the parents. But most of the children have gone back to school, even in rural areas. My sister-in-law is a teacher in a rural area. She was saying, you know, we don't have a lot of people that are actually looking for jobs as maids, you know, anymore, because they've all gone back to school. So it's a plus, you know, as the minister always says, it Minister of Education, it's a plus on their part. But like you mentioned as well, it violates a number of sustainable development goals, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of issues that come with having a lot of people around, you know. The sanitation part really is just a mess. And we surely hope that these things will be dealt with as we go forward. But yeah, when are we going to have schools in the next 2 years?
Yeah, we just hope that it will be addressed. And I know that, like you earlier pointed out, the minister said it's better, it's a good problem that needs to be addressed. So we hope that we'll expedite these processes, because I understand that the president has put into perspective the aspect of the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, that it should be utilized towards the construction of classroom blocks, as well as the purchasing of desks. And we hope that this thing, as we go, will be addressed, because at the end of the day, what we need is to ensure that every child is in school, because education, as they all say, is a #1 equalizer. And we hope that every child will be given an opportunity to have access to education. Now, talking about the last story that we can zoom in on terms of the headlines, Sharon, is a story where over 120 crops are field in Muchabi area in Chief Shakumbira Chiefdom in Mumbwa district, Central Province, have completely been submerged in water following heavy rains have been experienced in most parts of the country. The district disaster management and mitigation unit led by Mumbwa District Commissioner Namukolo Hayumbu have toured the area and appreciated the damage and has expressed sadness over the matter. So let's zoom in this story. We'll be back on the other side.
This is not a river or a stream as it may seem to be, but one of the crop fields that has completely been submerged in water following a heavy downpour experienced in Muchabi area of Senior Chief Shakumbira's chiefdom in Mumbwa district. The district disaster management and mitigation unit committee has visited the area to assess the extent of damage.
We are on the boat, and where we are now, this is Muchabi area, and under this water, cement is a lot of crops which are damaged. This huge amount of water. We have cotton, we have soya beans, and sunflower. So it means this year we have a lot of hunger. And as you see, we have so far visited about 10 maize fields. So all the fields that we have visited, the crops are gone.
Senior Chief Shakumbira and the area ward councillor are concerned about the situation.
We are putting an earnest appeal to the government to quickly move in to uplift our bridges here to the modern standard. And we need food relief as quickly as possible, because the families which have been affected with water, probably this time they have no food, as I can imagine. Because this water, the volume is too high. It's maybe 3 meters higher from the normal level of water along the Ngoma stream.
You can see here
3/4 of the fields has been flooded, a lot of them. But I can assume that not less than 126 fields has been hit by these floods, of which, if you are to count the number of households, on average, I may say about 10 people per family are involved in such incidences that has happened.
Meanwhile, Mumbwa District Commissioner Namkuro Hayumbu has assured the people in the area of government support.
It's impassable. Tomorrow, that's when we are bringing in the speed boat, the banana boat, and JMMU are securing 2 more boats so that we can provide maybe for 3 or 4 crossing points for the school-going children and those who are coming for medicals, especially the pregnant mothers and the children, those who have been brought for under 5. So we have to provide for them.
Matthias Chewe, Camnet TV News, Mumbwa.
Wacha constituency member of parliament Sidin Mushanga bemoaned the deplorable state of roads in his constituency. The lawmaker fears that with the onset of the rainy season, most of the roads in his constituency will become impassable. The lawmaker has since challenged the central government to address the situation in the area.
The biggest challenge that we have in the constituents, the roads are still bad. Then also drainages, especially during this period of time when it is raining.
This road is very important to the people of Wacha and KAFWAYA at large because it connects the populace of KAFWAYA to General Hospital, KAFWAYA Central Hospital. But as you can see, the road is in bad shape. Potholes are all over. There are pools of water everywhere. So it's very difficult for people to pass and transport their goods. If you can go further, and that side you see some contembers, people make money using this road. But it's very in a very bad shape.
Our appeal to the Minister of Infrastructure and Urban Development is to quicken the process of identifying the contractor to work on the township roads, not only in Wacha parliamentary constituency, but in the Kabo district, because I'm aware that even the other side of Kabo, that is Kabo Central constituency, the roads are not okay.
Early last year, upon assuming office, the New Dawn government terminated the contract of the contractor, Asphalt Roads Zambia Limited, on allegations that the contractor failed to beat the deadline.
Because I've got complications here, whereby from 2013 we have done 55%. And also as a contract, Mr. Senior, we don't, as a contractor, we are supposed to inject money. We don't just rely on us.
Excuse me, sir, you must please go and speak to the Minister of Finance. We had meetings with him last week ago. We went and borrowed another 10 million 3 months ago to pump into this contract, which we have done. Because we're getting to a point where we were just pumping money in all the time. We've pumped enough money in here. If you take what percentage is outstanding, in other words, there's 40 million that we supplied ourselves, that we pumped in ourselves.
More than 99% of urban roads in KAFWAYA are in a deplorable state, making it difficult and expensive for motorists when it comes to maintaining their vehicles. Petronella Msangulule, Camnet TV News, in KAFWAYA, Central Province.
There you have it. That was a story in Mumbwa. We were zooming in an area talking about the 120 crop fields that have submerged in water, and that's in Chief Shakumbila's chiefdom. Quite an interesting story there. We'll continue to follow up that story. And this is the right time for us to have our interview, and our guest is in the studio. He is the Opposition Patriotic Front presidential hopeful, Mr. MUTOTWE KAFWAYA, who's going to help us discuss various topical issues in the country. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you so much. Good morning to you, and good morning to our viewers.
Thank you.
Indeed, just to take note, Mr. KAFWAYA is also Lunte Member of Parliament, and he's aspiring, like Patrick mentioned, to be president of the Patriotic Front, and subsequently in 2026 be on the ballot and contest against the current president.
Interesting. Now, to just get started, Mr. KAFWAYA, I want you to bring us up to speed. How is the campaign process going, and how confident and ready are you for the forthcoming elective conference?
Thank you so much. Very important question, a compound of questions that. I think the campaigns are not yet open, as you may know. The Central Committee of the Patriotic Front Party has not yet opened the campaigns. But obviously the people who expressed interest to run the party are very well known, 8 or 9. Okay, very, very well known, and people are speaking to these people. You know, various interest groups are speaking to these people. Numerous people are speaking to me, and I'm speaking to them to establish what exactly do I feel I can be able to bring to the table. What exactly do I feel I can be able to bring, you know, to the governance of the Patriotic Front Party and subsequently to the governance of the nation. So all of us are establishing who we are, what we are about, as well as what our experience and focus and vision could be for the nation. So while the campaigns are not yet open, it's common knowledge for everybody that
what
we are
about that
speaking
process,
to.
Mr. KAFWAYA? We've seen you engaging constituents. What is that process? Is it just another one of those? Because most of your colleagues, even those we've engaged, you say, I'm meeting people at the constituents. I'm meeting the people at the grassroots. So that's another process altogether.
Yeah, I mean, see, as I'm saying, the party hasn't opened campaigns yet.
When are they likely to
and
open?
I'm not sure, to be very honest with you, but we'll get to hear maybe in the next Central Committee meeting, something to that effect may be pronounced. I'm unaware about that. I'm just speculating. But until the party says you are now free to go and meet delegates and speak to them, for now, we are just doing general activities. You know, I am not meeting constituency officials. I am not meeting provincial officials. I am not meeting, you know, these structures. But I'm speaking right now. You spoke of my application.
Yes.
Okay, and the people already know that I have actually applied, isn't it? And when I speak to them, it is a chance to establish what I'm about. So in a sense, this is speaking right into the hearts and minds of those who will be taking the decision. But once the party opens, this is when you will see you know, the full-blown campaigns going to the people who have been the convocation, who have a say in the convocation, to speak to them, you know, about the need to provide, you know, proper leadership for the party.
The other question we've asked almost everyone who has appeared on the same seat, who is aspiring to take over the leadership of the Patriotic Front, is that what do you bring on the table in terms of the rebranding of the former ruling party, and consequently, what is your vision for this country?
That's very interesting. What do I bring in terms of the rebranding? I think that we bring the expectations of the future, because I'm one among those who's been trained, you know, for solving problems of the future, because my own training is pretty recent, and it also focuses on leadership. I can assure you, one of my degrees is actually on leadership and sustainability. Now, sustainability focuses on the current and the future, isn't it? You have to make sure that the people who are here now have a decent life, but not to the detriment of those that come in the future. So in all of these things that we do, you have to have sustainability strategies, you know, imputed therein. So I think that I bring solutions for now and for the future. Now, you have to ask, for now, have you demonstrated that you have capacity to solve problems now? This is where you'll be tempted to go through my profile.
Yes, especially when you served as the Minister of Transport.
Well, that's not the max. I must add to you and to the viewer that President Lungu put me to governance structures at the apex, very apex, because I served as a member of the Defense Council, very privileged. I served as a member of the Zambia National Service Council, Advisory Council. Now, those are committees which are chaired by His Excellency the President, okay, at slightly above cabinet level. And here is why. The things that you discuss in the Defense Council are labeled top secret. You understand? The things that you discuss in cabinet are labeled secret. You understand?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
President Lungu put me at the very apex of governance. And when we begin to talk about the issues of governance, it is very clear I have been to the very apex. So for that wisdom that the former president used to incorporate me in that national governance to that level, will show you what he saw in me, will show you what experience I've been able to gather. But even when I served as cabinet minister, my track record is clear.
Could that be an indictment that you are the chosen one for going by the trust the president had in you?
Well, I'm not the only one who was in the Defense Council. Okay,
But you were among the privileged ones.
I was among the very few ministers who are privileged to serve in there. Very, very few. Now, that is a very, deeper corner of governance. You understand? Very, very deep corner of governance. But I wasn't the only one. So, but maybe among those, you can stop there. But the thing is this, that is a demonstration of where I have been. And these are issues that are not out there, they are not out there. And when we talk about our own experience, where we've been and what we've seen and so on, and how we have held ourselves together, how you have contained yourself in spite of what you have been made to experience, all of that speak to the person you are.
Interesting.
Expectations of the future, Mr. KAFWAYA, I think it's a blanket statement.
Yeah.
The PF really has a lot in store to correct.
Yes,
what are you going to do about it?
You see, our country generally has a lot of things to correct. And I think to just focus on the PF and say PF has got so much.
We are yet to move to other national issues. But then before we move, I want us to look at what you're bringing on. I'm still back on what you're bringing on the table, because you said what the future expects. For me, that is too broad.
Yeah.
We expect a lot of things. But then as a party, I think that's where the question was. Yeah. It was centered around the party before we come to national issues.
Okay. Well, I know that the PF had been in power for 10 years. Okay. And after 10 years, it was removed. UPND was substituted. Or should I say PF was substituted for UPND, right?
Maybe to make it simple, Mr. KAFWAYA, a post-mortem was conducted. But then there are a few things that you felt these need to be worked on. What are those? That you are convinced as a person, as a leader?
There are a number of things. There are a number of things, and all of them, border on leadership, really. Okay, they border on leadership, because you cannot talk about cadarism, excuse me, without referring it to leadership. You cannot. So as leaders, there were areas we failed. You understand. And frankly speaking, I'm one of those people who feels the pain when we talk about cadarism, because cadarism is the main thing, you understand. And yet, we had the instruments to deal with it. And yet, we had political will to deal with it. Because I'll tell you that President Edgar Lungu, where he is, he might be feeling bad. But for people like myself, Honorable Stephen Kampiongo and Honorable Charles Banda, we know that President Edgar Lungu did not want anything to do with cadarism. And he called the three of us, okay, to talk to us and demanded from us, because we were dealing with the sectors where cadarism was rampant. You understand? So that is, if you ask me where I failed as a minister, That is one of the things I'll mention. We failed to deal with cadreism even when the president
directed
us to deal with it. But even in there, and somebody may hold me accountable and say, oh yes, so you are a failure, you understand. I will still try to clean off myself a bit, because when we sat now, the three of us, we gave each other roles according to the portfolios we're managing. My own role, I began to implement. Okay, so I am happy that I heed not only President Edgar Lungu's directive, but also the agreement among the three ministers. And evidence is there that I was able to carry forward what was directed at me as a person. So in that perspective, I am very happy with myself. Although I think that as a group, we failed President Edgar Lungu. And today he feels so bad when people are talking about this cadreism and so on. He feels so bad. But I will never blame him. If you ask the Honorable Stephen Kampion, he will tell you the same. If you ask Honorable Charles Banda, who was Minister of Local Government then, he will tell you the same.
But why did you take what was the teething issue in taking the board decision to say, we don't want this?
It was compound, my brother. The cadreism involved local government. Okay, it involved transport.
Yes.
It involved
Home Affairs.
Security.
Yes, Home Affairs.
Okay. The people who were suffering cadreism in bus stops were my people, the drivers and conductors. Those were the victims and commuters. My people, all of those were my people. The commuters are my people. The drivers were my people, as well as the conductors.
Yes.
Okay. So those are the ones who were suffering the brunt of cadreism in bus stops and along, along highways.
Yes.
You understand? Now, my issue was that because I was not only in charge of transport, I was also in charge of communications. Okay? When we sat after that directive, I was allocated the issue of communications. Okay? Go and communicate to the people that now we are moving in. You understand? And this is why, if I were more specific and ask you, go to Radio Phoenix and ask Luchi. Luchi was the first person to interview me on this. And I was very clear. We appeared on a show with one gentleman who belonged to the Taxi Association. And we denounced that, and we said, now security is going to move in to eradicate this. What happened to that man? The very following day, he was beaten up.
Yes, I remember that.
You remember that?
Yes, Mr. Sydney.
Yes.
Mbewes.
Yes.
Yes.
He was we appeared on a show with him like today, and the very following day he was assaulted badly. You understand?
Yes.
I probably wasn't assaulted because I had police on my gate, because I was a minister then. There were police guards on my gate. You understand? So what was allocated to me, and this is what I was saying earlier, I delivered. Okay? Now, this thing has gone. This thing has made us pay the full price. We've already paid the full price. What is required now is that where UPND is going to end, we must clean it off completely. So, and to keep talking about that cadreism which was there, which has now taken a different form now, is even a waste of time, because it's not there. What is there now is new cadreism.
That's where we're going.
That's where we are coming to. In case you are just joining us, we are in conversation with the former Minister of Transport and also an aspiring president for the Patriotic Front, also Lunte Member of Parliament for the Patriotic Front. The conversation we're having this morning is the UPND living up to expectations as, is it 1 year, 6 months?
Yeah, it's
close to 2 years.
Yes.
Close to 2 years of them being in government. A lot of issues have happened, and that's what we are talking about this morning. Let's weigh in the issue of the one that we're talking about.
Yes, we start with, no, before we go to energy, let's end on cadreism. Now, that because he has enough experience to, especially in terms of this sector,
he says
and how it functions.
A new form.
Now, do you think the UPND is upholding its campaign promise to end cadreism? Because we're looking at the campaign promises and how they're implementing their policies so far. So now, looking at the issue of cadarism in markets and bus stations, your assessment based on your observation, are they on course, or what have you observed?
Or have they continued with your mistake?
Well, thank you so much. And have they continued with your mistake? Just squeezing in. You need to feel it. Here is the thing. Cadarism is bad. Okay, I think there are several ways of looking after your cadres. You have to devise a sensible mechanism, a sustainable mechanism, and I'm calling that from my own studies. The thing is this: you cannot take away visible or superficial cadarism and replace it with, you know, seemingly invisible cadarism. But yet, it is there. Okay? So, to answer your question, UPND has failed to live up to their campaign promise to end cadarism, because cadarism is terrible now. Even the superficial one, which existed then, is resurfacing on a very rapid, you know, basis. I'll tell you that when PF cadres were so many and so visible, policemen were not being beaten by them. These cadres for UPND have been able to beat policemen at roadblocks. At Samba there were clobbered policemen. These cadres for UPND are able to go in an office and beat up a DAO, you know, district administration officer, you know, the next person to the DC. Beaten like a child, whipped, you understand, and a woman, a big woman, married woman, whipped by cadres in her own office like a child. These are people who are able to beat up a person in KAFWAYA in an office. You understand? But these are people who are also able to say, I'll flash a UPND card, I've been a member for this party, we are freedom fighters, we have fought you police, you are just useless, insulting them. And in the very morning rushes to the IG to go and say, fire those police, they are PF. Then when they play them when they play them how they conducted themselves, they start saying, no, this thing should not reach the principal, and so on and so forth. So you have serious cadarism in UPND. But also, if you have heard the audio that has been circulating, you'll be very, very surprised. Where a UPND cadre is saying, the president cannot direct you to go and beat these people. But what you do is wear masks. Mask yourselves. Go and beat them. You beat them, and who is going to know you? There will be no one. In fact, you even plant chamber. You plant dagger on them. Take them to the police and say, we found them selling dagger. Bamumanga, bakamumanga. By the time Azakachoka is 2026 in Apita, why are you so worried about 2026? Why are you so worried about 2026?
And this is just 2023.
And this is just 2023, for God's sake. You have 3 years to go.
Not knowing if that audio is indeed authentic.
Well,
we'll request it
we'll request for it. We'll request for it and have to listen to it so that we can judge for ourselves.
You don't want to have cadres in public offices. You don't train cadres more P, you train your cadres in OP operations. You see, you are weakening the office of the president. Because here is the thing. If I'm the one who is going to come after President Akainde, I know all of them who have been trained, who have been deployed everywhere. I'll fire them. You understand? But when I fire them, the thing is this, they will have known how the OP operates. So you are weakening the office of the president. What you need to do is to have professionals who will not be touched by anyone. And when KAFWAYA comes, KAFWAYA will continue with those who are saving HH now. You understand? But those cadres who have been trained in OP, I know them. Or I have a list.
And you're just waiting for 2026?
I am just waiting to win. Then I fire them. Because, I mean, they have to follow UPND. Because they are UPND cadres. You understand? So we must depoliticize the public service.
But this is exactly what was happening, Mr. KAFWAYA.
You can't say that. You cannot say that.
You had a clause in your constitution as the PF which said you needed to employ people in the civil service that were supporting you. So What is the difference then and now?
Even now,
maybe you can just correct the impression.
Let me tell you, even now, when you look at the people who are being employed, are those hardcore supporters of UPND. If you are doubting, I'll draw your attention to what.
No, I'm not doubting. I'm just saying Chibipirashani, because it was the same then and now. What is the difference?
You cannot have cadres trained as OP.
So that was wrong.
It is wrong now. It's happening now.
It wasn't happening in the
previous.
No.
Okay. You cannot have cadres employed as civil servants. A person supporting a party, and you know, or should I say, a person who has allegiance to the party because the party is in power is okay. Right now, I want civil servants who have allegiance to the UPND. Because what the government is implementing now are UPND policies. So you don't want to have, civil service which does not support UPND policies. You understand? So even when they are promoting them, they should see who is able to assist us implement policies better. Within the system, within these people, who has understood our policies better, who is able to, to work efficiently and so on. Okay. Do that, it's important.
Let's try and pick the score. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, thank you. Where are you calling from?
Calling from
All right, go ahead with your contribution. Just speak a little louder.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. KAFWAYA.
Good morning, thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah, according to the topic, the UPND up to campaign kilometers. Yeah, I would say somehow they are trying. They are trying. There are something that they have implemented which we can point out to say, this was activity. They promised us during the campaign period. Yeah, but now coming to the issue of catalysis. Catalysis are normal. The way catalysis is there. But the only problem is hooliganism. We need to address hooliganism, both that things and that. We really need to go for a catch. Instead of only a catch, that's a patriotic flag. So now, can we say that to control the political party? No. But what is going to be a bad person is your act, is your character. So those catchers are talking about hooliganism, addressing hooliganism. So there is a case under the game, and what we are able to do about different. We have scattered here in the program, the way, you are in town, there's a place to go to, you are basing. But when they come, they just say, what is that there? You have to be doing the card. So that's what I'm explaining now. So meaning what is happening in the place and what is happening in the place is different. I know you can say the police are sitting up in the place is university. You can look at the phone. If you can't have the video for important by the traffic officer, you just go there and say that's my view. You know what it is?
All right.
So there are a lot of those issues. You know, the place, there are a lot of those issues. You can have it what I want to happen in the UK. So don't try to
but should people dwell on... All right, well, anyway, maybe speak to that.
Quite serious accusations, but he said on promises, some they are trying, others they, and so on. I can comment on that. But what strike me is you are the ones who brought that cadreism, hooliganism. I just want to remind my colleague that when the Mapatizia formula was born, PF was not yet in existence. Okay, it was UPND and MMD. Okay, when there was a Mufumbwe bloodbath in northwestern province where my colleague is, he should recall that PF was not a participant. It was UPND and MMD. So to stand upright and say UPF you brought hooliganism is very unfortunate. Particularly, you know, Palwangala Katiete, as we say in Bemba, which brought daylight. You come and say you brought this. No. But I will remind my colleague as well that when MMD took out UNIP from power, there was no bloodshed anywhere. Anywhere. It was just clever men who spoke cleverly to the people. You understand? Who had better ideas or ideas which sounded better. You understand? The moment UPND was introduced, that's when we began to see these violent, the tempest cadarism. Cadarism is there, even you, Mr. KAFWAYA, you are a cadre. Yes, but I'm an accounting cadre. I'm not a political cadre. I'm an accounting cadre. This is why I've lived all my entire life as an accountant. And I don't deny that, you understand. In the Ministry of Health, I worked with health cadres, you know, the people who are trained in health matters. So cadreism is there as a concept, but what we are talking about is what he referred to as hooliganism. Isn't it? It's
we have another caller. Let's pick this and get...
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, thank you. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
This is Joshua Mambwe.
Yes, where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling within Arusaka.
All right, go ahead with your contribution.
No, for me, I just want to argue one thing with Mr. KAFWAYA, where he says in the state house there are so many cadres who are working as the office there.
In the state house.
Mr. KAFWAYA, you clarified your clear during your PS regime, the time when you were in the government. Cadres were going around reporting that they even had the line for the head of the state, the common cadres who were found in the street. And today you are seated there, pretending being as an angel to say in the state house they are cadres. How assurance are you giving to the people of Zambia that the same thing used to happen during your time? It will not happen if you come as a president. Thank you.
All right. Pretending as an angel?
Well,
just maybe also correct the impression that
yeah, I mean, that's the first thing which was on my mind. I think public service and state house may be two different expressions. I have noted that there are UPND cadres who have been trained in OP procedures and deployed in various institutions, and I have said I know them. And I'm saying when I come, they are gone, all of them. None of them will remain because those are not professionals, they are cadres. They are going to follow all these other cadres who have been deployed everywhere. They will go. But those public workers, those civil servants who have been in the public service system and have risen through ranks will be the ones who will be retained and promoted, and will ensure that these people begin to render professional service to the people. It's impossible for government right now to give professional services to the public because the people who have been infused there now are political cadres. You know, okay? Yeah. So what will I do to make sure? Meritocracy is important. You have to have a clear understanding of these establishments. My role will be to strengthen them.
Does it mean you are doubting the methodical approach the president has been using?
There's nothing methodical about what UPND is doing. What UPND is doing from the very top coming down to the base is just politics, and bad politics. You understand? There's nothing methodical, my brother, about giving concessions to the mines, endless concessions. There's nothing methodical about exporting power and your own people are suffering. There's nothing methodical about that. All of that is purely implementing things that will benefit the rich few. The rich few in the country, and the poor majority to suffer more. Today, how much is a bag of mealie meal? Today, how much is $1 to kwacha? All of these things have a direct impact on the poor management of the country. So clearly, before we become emotional on the matter, we should be able to say that we must act according to what we say. If UPND was methodical, they can't produce such a poor budget. If UPND was methodical, they can't be bringing bad laws to the assembly, such as the SEC, the SEC Amendment Act. They can't. They have to show that they are methodical. You understand? By doing things which are going to ease the conditions of the poor majority.
I want to now pick on your perspective now, Mr. KAFWAYA, on another subject.
Yes.
The president has been undertaking what they term fruitful or progressive trips, and currently he's not even in the country.
Yes.
He was in Angola, he was in Abu Dhabi,
yes.
And according to him, they sealed quite a number of deals, including a deal in Angola, a deal in Saudi Arabia on solar electricity. Now, what would be your perspective on these trips? Others are saying they are not progressive. What is your perspective on this matter?
I went to Luanda in Angola with Honorable Vincent Mwale. I think just before we lost power to govern. And there we signed a number of memoranda of understanding with those people to do with connectivity. And I heard the president saying we are going to honor the obligations which were done by our predecessors. You understand? So if he has added some more to what we signed just before we left, so be it. But did it have to take the president to go to Angola? Did it have to take the president to go, to Abu Dhabi? Does it have to take and the moral issue here is, what is the cost of mini meal right now? What is the cost to the Zambian people of exporting power? What is the cost to the Zambian people of implementing a poorly crafted budget?
This is I want to continuously interrupt you, Mr.
No, this is very important.
Okay.
This is very important.
Let's proceed.
So the caller will hold it.
This is very important. This is the time when things are so hard for the Zambian people, when the Zambian people are buying mini meal on average 200 kwacha, and the mini meal is not there in all shops. You understand? So would it be more prudent for the president to save that money he's spending? And mind you, the travel of a president is not similar to the travel of a minister, because the minister, you go alone. You go at best you go with one media person. You understand? Some of the media organizations sponsor their own people to go and get news from what the ministers are performing. You understand? So what amount of relief would that saving do to the poor majority who are having to go without, without having decent meals? If the president stayed home, if the president, for once began, to visit marketeers and shake their hands without a glove. You understand? Shake the poor people. The president should not be seen shaking just the white people, and in many cases wearing a glove when he is going to his own people. You understand? The president should be seen in Soweto market. He should be seen in Chifundo market, shaking people, greeting them and understanding their problems, so that when his Minister of Agriculture is saying things which do not resonate with what you will have seen on the ground, he's able to correct. But what do we see? 32 foreign trips in so few months, when the economy is so bad, even all the fundamentals which were being talked about, including the dollar and the kwacha, is just shooting on a daily basis. This is not the time we should be talking about president's travels. This is not the time. This is time we should be saying our president is seated in State House trying to help us resolve the matters. Okay. But even ministers, I can assure you, one minister, he tells his people, what type of thinking is that?
All right, I think we can pick this now.
Let's pick this call.
Hello, good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
You are through to Camnet Breakfast Show. Your name and where you are calling us from?
Tell us your name and where you're calling from. All right, Mr. Blanc, go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, my contribution is I think that is not intelligent now. Look at the answer that is being taken back. The results are taken back like this, where very few institutions benefit.
the line is not clear. Maybe try to call us back so that we can get your view on what we are talking about this morning. Let's weigh in the issue of energy. I know the issue of milling is quite big, and it's as a result of the high cost of production according to the producers of this milling and also lack of capacity to have this maize. But the Food Reserve Agency yesterday issued a statement where it said it's responding to the call of this scarcity of the commodity. Isn't this a right step in the right direction, regardless of these foreign trips and everything the bad that they've done, you know?
I mean, we should not always look to blaming UPND.
Yeah.
I think we should look to providing what we think are solutions. But my own experience is that UPND does not listen to anyone, because in the assembly where I'm privileged to sit, I provided solutions to one bill. I moved 20 amendments which were all rejected, and a very bad bill went through and the president went and signed it. Today it's an act of parliament, and I can assure you this is the only act of parliament which Anthony Bwali has never talked about. Every time a small piece of legislation passes, you see Anthony Bwali, no, the president assents to, the president assents. Some of them, they even celebrate them with a luncheon. Okay, at State House. I don't know if you know that there was a luncheon which was put out, or you know, to celebrate the removal of the death penalty from the penal code. Now, there are two things. How do you celebrate a repeal of an act of parliament and bring a luncheon where the person who invites people to go and eat doesn't even eat? The president never ate with those people.
How do you know?
Isn't it there in the open? Wasn't it in the open? The president never ate with all those people who he brought to come and eat with. And for me, these are the complaints I have. When the president brings people like that and he says, he must also eat. What is he fearing? You understand? What is he fearing? But let me come back to your question. Yes. And that should be married to coming to us, the poor, you know, where we live. Muku to Monaco, you know, like this one. So, but he feels us.
Mr. President, wherever you are, please greet Mr. KAFWAYA.
Absolutely.
Please.
Well, in the assembly, I sit at the back, so I may not have the opportunity to greet him because he only greets those, and he only does this.
Next month on the 14th, the parliament is opening.
He only does like
this. Please greet him specifically.
I sit at the back. If I was in the front row there, I could have had a chance, but I sit behind.
He has to come to you.
No. Let him pass there, but he'll be doing like this. I hope he can greet those, and those are not very poor. You know, those ones are ministers who sit in front there. They are ministers. They are not poor.
Let's go back to the question.
So we are talking about electricity.
He was responding to that question. Yeah.
So now, electricity. Let's. How would you want us to manage this energy crisis in terms of providing solution that you also mentioned?
Number one, stop exporting, because you cannot be exporting power when your people are subjected to 12 hours of load shedding. And where you are exporting, the people there are not experiencing load shedding. It's irresponsible. It is very responsible on the part of government. Stop exporting. Then when you develop capacity to produce more than what you need as a nation, then you can export the excess. You understand? It's a very simple solution. But I said somewhere that the problem we have is that you have given away all the money in the mines, so you don't have any dollars coming in the country. Therefore, the only way to cushion your kwacha from, you know, flying through the roof is by exporting something. And what is that? You know, and then you have taken away all the money in the mines. So the only thing, light, you know, but at what expense? At what cost to the Zambian people? It's terrible. stop exporting. In the immediate term, stop exporting.
Before you came, we were previewing some of the recommendations that were given by energy experts Johnston Chikwanda,
yes,
that the government should consider increasing the electricity tariff in order to attract foreign investment into the sector, so that Zambia can expand its generation capacity and be able to supply the local and foreign markets. Now, is that you? Do you agree to such a school of thought?
I will certainly reject that, because right now electricity is so expensive. Before long, when you pay 1,000 kwacha, you were coming out with 900 units and so on. When you pay 1,000, how many units are coming out now? 400-500? Hasn't it become so expensive? So you need to make it expensive again, so that those poor people we are talking about can't even afford now. For them, it's candles. They go back to Makoroboy. Do you know Makoroboy? You know
exactly.
Them? If you know, you want the people to go back to that, and then you are saying we are forward. What forward is that? My friend, it is time to start to think for the majority. This is the point. Those people who talk like that are pro-elite. They are those people who think about the rich people all the time. But rich people thrive on poor people. Let's capacitate poor people so that they also participate in economic and social opportunities. It's very, very important. And ZESCO, being a company owned by Zambians, must be able to provide for Zambians before it can start providing for foreigners.
The president is on record to say the Zambian people that need the same ZESCO need the money, so there is need to balance.
Which money?
They need employment.
So they will need to export.
Why don't we get the money from
They will
mines?
need to export and make a bit of the money to service the whole station. Actually, even the energy regulation board said the same thing. So we need to sustain the management of ZESCO, and that's the more reason why we are still exporting. At the same time, just a reminder, Mr. KAFWAYA, load shedding hours have been reduced to 8, not 12.
Well, I don't know, 2 hours. You should go to Honorable Gary Nkombo's debate in Parliament, reducing to 2 hours. But when you are exporting, that's the point. When you are selling, when you are capacitating other people to create jobs, to create employment in other countries, and this resource is being generated here, using our water, using our investment. And then you sell it to other people to create jobs when there are no jobs in your own country.
Other alternatives that we can use insofar as energy is concerned, Mr. KAFWAYA. We have this problem, of course, but what are other alternatives?
If your main issue is money, to get money, diversify your economy, okay? Diversify your economy, and you have a good basis. You have a good basis on agriculture. So stop playing in the agriculture sector in the manner the government is playing. Stop playing in the tourism sector in the manner they are playing. Start concentrating on those sectors which can give you diversification so that you can earn money from other sectors, other than critical sectors which are needed for production, which are needed for a livelihood, which are simply needed for people to continue surviving as decent Zambians. So for me, I think that there is laziness in the manner we are making solutions. It's mental laziness. People should think. People should think. If I were president, you can't export power and load shed. 8 hours is a lot.
Are we talking about leadership failure in terms of the appointing authority, or his cabinet is failing him?
Well, if I go back to Gary Nkombo's debate in Parliament on this issue, which I think with hindsight needs to be supported, it is just leadership failure. And it has reflected in the suffering majority, in the way people are suffering everywhere. It has reflected in how there is no meal in the country. It has reflected in how commodities have become so expensive. It has reflected in how the dollar to kwacha relationship is deteriorating on a daily basis.
Mr. KAFWAYA, your concluding remarks.
The Zambian people, I request you, pray for UPND. Pray for President Hakainde Hichilema, so that the Holy Spirit may be able to descend upon this government, and so that this government can start looking at us, the poor, with compassion, us, the poor, with the attitude of our Lord Jesus Christ. And I do so from an honest place. Please pray for UPND. Thank you so much.
Well,
all right.
Our dear viewers, we'd like to thank you for watching the Camnet Breakfast Show, as well as the Camnet Breakfast Show interview with our guest for today, being the PF aspiring president, Mr. MUTOTWE KAFWAYA. He's also the Lunte lawmaker, as well as a former Minister of Transport under the Patriotic Front administration. Until next week, when we come with another interesting episode of the Camnet Breakfast Show, governance and policy
tomorrow.
And politics. Tomorrow, in fact.
Until tomorrow, thank you so much for watching. Good morning.
Good morning.